I miss you all. I hope that you're all doing excellent. Today we're going to be discussing for our read aloud our third element. Remember that the first day we discussed character, and characters are the who in the story. Who is the story about? Then we discussed yesterday the setting, and the setting tells us all about where the story takes place and when the story takes place. So today we're entering to our third element, and our element is called the plot. The plot is no other thing than telling what happened in the beginning, in the middle, and then at the end of the story. And it is very important because, like we've been discussing in class, we all do things differently. So the author wants to deliver a message, and that's why the author builds the story a certain way. So it's very important when we're retelling, when we're telling others about these stories that we are reading, for us to keep that consistency, because that is what's building up in the story. So that's why the plot is so important. Please make sure that every time you're retelling something that you're telling first what happened in the beginning, then what happened in the middle, and lastly what happened at the end. We don't want to skip or go back and forth, because that will kind of like boom the story itself. So we don't want to spoil it, remember that. So we want to make sure that we're telling it in the order that the author wrote it down. So beginning, middle, and end, that's what the plot is all about. So this, as I said, this is one of my favorite stories ever, and I hope that you like it as much as I do. It's called A Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon. Camilla Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them. All of her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in. Camila was always worried about what other people thought of her. Today, she was frightened even more than usual. It was the first day of school, and she couldn't decide what to wear. There were so many people to impress. She tried on 42 outfits, but none seemed quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked in the mirror. Then she screamed, "Ah!" Her mother ran into the room and she screamed too. "Oh, my heavens!" she cried. "You're completely covered with stripes." This was certainly true. Camila was striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. Mrs. Cream felt Camila's forehead. "Do you feel all right?" she asked. "I feel fine," Camila answered, "but just look at me." "You get back to bed this instant," her mother ordered. "You're not going to school today." Camila was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid of what the other kids would say, and she had no idea what to wear with those crazy stripes. That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. "Most extraordinary," he exclaimed. "I've never seen anything like it. Are you having any coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, chills, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, shortness of breath, or uncontrollable twitching?" "No," Camilla told him. "I feel fine." "Well, then," Dr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, "I don't see any reason why she shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should help clear up those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me." And off he went. The next day was a disaster. Everyone at school laughed at Camilla. They called her Camilla Crayon and Night of the Living Lollipop. She tried her best to act as if everything were normal, but when the class said the Pledge of Allegiance, her stripes turned red, white, and blue, and she broke out in stars. The other kids thought this was great, so one yelled out, "Let's Let's see some purple polka dots. Sure enough, Camila turned all purple polka dotty. Someone else shouted, checkerboard, and a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon, everyone was calling out different shapes and colors, and poor Camila was changing faster than you can change channels on a TV. Poor Camila. That night, Mr. Harms, the school principal, called. I am sorry, Mrs. Cream, he said. I'm going to have to ask you to keep Camilla home from school. She's just too much of a distraction. And I've been getting calls from the other parents. They're afraid those stripes may be contagious. Camilla was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago everyone liked her. Now, nobody wanted to be in the same room with her. Remember that's what she wanted the most. In the beginning of the story, we noticed how Camila, she just wanted to fit in and make sure that everyone liked her. Now that it seems that because of the stripes and the illness that she has, nobody's liking her. How do you think she's feeling? And I am going to compare it to the book we've read on Monday. The fish was feeling lonely because we looked in the pages and he was alone. But now there's a lot of kids and are calling her names and she doesn't seem to fit in. So what is that word called again? Yeah. She's feeling excluded now. Her father tried to make her feel better. Is there anything I can get you, sweetheart? He asked. No, thank you, sighed Camilla. What she really wanted was a nice plate of lima beans, but she had been laughed at enough for one day. Well, yes, I see. Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Green phoned the next day. I think I better bring in this specialist. We'll be right over. About an hour later, Dr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced them to the Creams. This is Dr. Grump, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young. Then the specialist went to work on Camilla. They squeezed and jabbed and tapped and tested. It was very uncomfortable. Well, it is not the mumps, concluded Dr. Grubb. Or the measles, said Dr. Sponge. Definitely not chicken pox, put in Dr. Cricket. Or sunburn, said Dr. Young. Try this, said the specialist. They each handed her a bottle filled with different colored pills. Take one of each before bed, said Dr. Grubb. Then they filed out the front door, followed by Dr. Bumble. I wonder, how is she feeling? In the beginning of the story, she wanted to go to school. It was her first day. Then she decided not to go because she noticed all those stripes. Then when she got to go, she felt excluded because of all the callings that she was getting from all the other kids. And now she's being examined by everyone. I wonder what's going to happen next. That night, Camilla took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel different. But when she got dressed, her clothes didn't fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there, staring back at her, was a giant multicolored pill with her face on it. Isn't that silly? Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called, but this time, instead of the specialist, he brought the experts. Dr. Gord and Dr. and Mr. Mellon were the finest scientific minds in the land. Once again, Camilla was poked and prodded, looked at and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers. Then they huddled together and whispered. Dr. Gord finally spoke. It might be a virus, he announced with authority. Suddenly, fussy little virus bug appeared all over Camilla. Or possibly some sort of bacteria, said Mr. Mellon. Out popped squiggly little bacteria tails. Or it could be a fungus, added Dr. Gord. Instantly, Camilla was covered with different color fungus blotches. The experts looked at Camilla, then at each other. We need to go over these numbers again back at the lab, Dr. Gord explained. We'll call you when we know something. But the experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. By now, the TV news has found out about Camilla. Reporters from every channel were outside her house telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon, a huge crowd was camped out on the front lawn. Take a look at that. I wonder how is she feeling? Is that making her feel comfortable or uncomfortable? Is she feeling on a pleasant or unpleasant side? Will she be more on the blue or the green side? Think about that. How would you feel if you was Camilla? The creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies from psychologists, allergists, herbalists, nutritionists, psychics, and all medicine man, a guru, and even a vet. Each so-called cure only added to poor Camilla's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers and a long fairy tale right there, but nothing worked. Poor Camilla. One day, a woman who called herself an environmental therapist claimed she could cure Camilla. Close your eyes, she said. Breathe deeply and become one with your room. I wish you hadn't said that, Camilla groaned. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became her mouth right here. Her nose was a dresser. And two paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed and ran from the house. Ah! What are we going to do? Cried Mrs. Scream. It just keeps getting worse and worse. She began to sob. This poor Camila is changing and changing and changing. So in the beginning, we were seeing a happy person. Then in the middle of the story, we were seeing how this person started changing and changing and changing. And all those feelings, are they being positive? Is she being feeling happy? It keeps on building up. That's why retelling by parts is important. So keep in mind what happened first. She was happy. Then she started changing. She was just a little sad. Then she felt excluded. Now that she has all of these things added just because of the experts and the scientists and the people that are coming to help, how do you think she's feeling? This poor Camila going through so much, and now not just her, but her parents are suffering as well. I wonder what will help her. What is it that she said in the beginning of the story that she really liked? Think about that. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet little knock at the front door. He opened it, and there stood an old woman who was just as plump and sweet as a strawberry. Excuse me, she said brightly, but I think I can help. She went into Camilla's room and looked around. My goodness, she said with a shake of her head. What we have here is a bad case of stripes. One of the worst I've ever seen. She pulled a container of small green beans from her bag. Wait, wasn't that what she liked best, the lima beans? Huh? Here, she said. This might do the trick. Are those magic beans? Asked Mrs. Scream. Oh, my, no, replied the kind old woman. They're There's no such thing. These are just plain old lima beans. I'll bet you like some, wouldn't you? She asked Camilla. Camilla wanted a big heaping plate full of lima beans, but more than just anything. But she was still afraid to admit it. Yuck, she said. No one likes lima beans, especially me. Oh dear, the old woman said sadly. I guess I was wrong about you. She put the beans back in her bag and started toward the door. Camilla watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good, and being laughed at for eating them was nothing compared to what she'd been going through. So she finally couldn't stand it. Wait! She cried. The truth is, I really love lima beans. I thought so, the old woman said with a smile. She took a handful of beans and popped them into Camilla's mouth. Mmm, said Camilla. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. Then the whole room swirled around. When it stopped, there stood Camilla, and everything was back to normal. I'm cured, she shouted. Yes, said the old woman. I knew the real you was in there somewhere. She patted Camilla on the head. Then she went outside and vanished into the crowd. Afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never had even a touch of stripes again. And that is the end. So what we can see in the story when we talk about the plot is we want to make sure that we understand what's happening in the beginning, the middle, and the end. So what I want you guys to do is, since you heard this story, I want you guys to tell me what happened in the beginning, what happened in the middle, and at the end. The way that I want you to do it, I want you to get a piece of paper and start drawing and telling me what happened first, what happened in the middle, and what happened at the end. Try to add as much details as you can, because remember, that is what's going to count. That is what's going to give me, or the reader, or whoever is listening to you retell the story, is going to give all those details. Is what's going to bring the story to life. So I'll see you soon, and I hope you like this story as much as I do, because there's a lot that we can get from it, and hopefully we will use it again soon. Bye-bye.